Linda Ronstadt is a name that echoes through the history of American music. With a career spanning several decades, she has left an indelible mark on rock, pop, country, and folk. Her voice has been described as powerful, soulful, and timeless. Songs like Blue Bayou and You're No Good are not just hits, they are musical milestones that define an era. Her versatility allowed her to move seamlessly from rock and roll to country ballads and from pop anthems to Latin music. Fans loved her not just for her talent but for her fearless way of expressing herself. Imagine being at the top of the music world, surrounded by legends, working with the best in the industry, and constantly pushing the boundaries of genres. That was Linda's reality. Her collaborations with artists like Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris resulted in iconic harmonies that still resonate today. Yet despite all the praise and the countless accolades, Linda was never one to shy away from speaking her mind. She has always been outspoken about her beliefs, her tastes, and her thoughts on the music world. Linda quote, "Its journey to fame was not without its struggles. Coming from a musical family in Arizona, she moved to Los Angeles at a young age with big dreams and a voice that was destined to make waves." The music scene in the late 60s and early 70s was fierce, with competition from established stars and emerging talents alike. But Linda was different. She wasn't just another pretty face with a sweet voice, she had grit and a willingness to take risks. Whether it was experimenting with traditional Mexican music or embracing the softer side of rock, she never played it safe. Despite her success, Linda often faced challenges from critics who didn't understand her eclectic style. Some thought she should stick to one genre, while others questioned her choices when she ventured into more classical or traditional music. Yet she never let those opinions define her. She followed her instincts, trusting her passion for music to guide her through the unpredictable industry. One thing that has always set Linda apart is her unwavering honesty. While many celebrities keep their opinions close to the chest, she never shied away from sharing hers. Whether it was about politics, social issues, or other musicians, she spoke with a directness that could sometimes be polarizing. Some admired her for being so bold, while others felt uncomfortable with her candor. But for Linda, being true to herself was far more important than maintaining a perfect public image. Her list of dislikes in the music world might surprise some, given her extensive collaborations and generally positive public persona. Yet, like any passionate artist, Linda has her preferences and strong opinions about the music she respects and the kind she doesn't. It's not about personal vendettas but rather an honest reflection of her tastes. In interviews, she has sometimes hinted at being unimpressed by certain artists, though she rarely names names. Fans have often speculated about who might be on her list, but Linda's choices are rooted in her genuine love for music and her belief in artistic integrity. She never discredits someone just for being different, but rather for what she perceives as a lack of depth or sincerity in their craft. Having spent her life in the industry, Linda has seen firsthand how fame can sometimes overshadow genuine talent. For her, music is more than just a commercial product, it's a form of storytelling and emotional connection. When she senses that an artist is more interested in fame than the art itself, it leaves a bitter taste. Perhaps what makes her opinions so intriguing is the contrast between her own artistic journey and the modern music scene. Linda came from a time when artists spent years honing their craft, performing live shows and building a reputation based on talent and hard work. Today the industry is fast-paced, with viral hits sometimes outweighing years of dedication. Linda's perspective, shaped by decades of commitment to music, naturally reflects a sense of nostalgia for a time when authenticity mattered more. Her opinions are not just about disliking someone's voice or style, they often tie back to her core belief in musical integrity. She appreciates artists who pour their soul into their work, who are unafraid to be vulnerable and real. It's not about perfection but passion. Linda sees music as a way to connect deeply with listeners, and when an artist fails to do that, it's disappointing to her. One could say that Linda's dislikes are not about hate but about disappointment. When she sees an artist with potential not living up to it or someone taking shortcuts to success, it bothers her. For someone who dedicated her life to making meaningful music, it's understandable why she would feel that way. As fans, it's easy to idolize our favorite musicians and forget that they too have opinions about the industry. Linda's candidness may come off as harsh, but it's also refreshingly real. She doesn't sugarcoat her feelings or pretend to like something just because it's popular. This unfiltered honesty is part of what makes her so compelling, both as an artist and as a person. The suspense around her list of disliked musicians only adds to her mystique. People naturally wonder, who are these artists, and what did they do to make her feel this way? Some names might be obvious to those who have followed her interviews, while others might come as a surprise. Regardless, Linda's opinions reflect a deep respect for music as an art form and a belief that true artistry cannot be faked. Her legacy remains untouched by these revelations. Whether people agree with her opinions or not, they cannot deny her contribution to the music world. Linda Ronstadt is more than just a singer, she is a storyteller, an advocate for artistic integrity, and a fearless voice that continues to inspire. Even as she shares her most disliked musicians, it's not done with malice, but with a sense of wanting better from the industry she loves so deeply. Linda Ronstadt's career is a journey through the heart of music's most transformative years. She didn't just witness the evolution of rock, pop, and country music, she was right at the center of it. Her voice carried the spirit of the 70s and 80s, a time when music was raw, authentic, and unfiltered. But what many people don't know is the path she took to get there, and the legendary musicians she crossed paths with along the way. Her journey wasn't just about chart-topping hits, it was about breaking barriers and redefining what it meant to be a female artist in a male-dominated industry. When Linda first moved to Los Angeles from Tucson, Arizona, she was just a young woman with a guitar and a dream. The city was alive with musical talent, a melting pot of rock, blues, and folk. It was a time when venues like the Troubadour and the Whiskey A Go-Go were buzzing with energy. Young artists would perform night after night, hoping to catch the attention of record producers or influential musicians. Linda was one of them, and her voice was impossible to ignore. Her first major breakthrough came with the Stone Ponies, a folk rock trio that captured the essence of the late 60s. But it wasn't until she went solo that her true potential was realized. Her voice had a power that could cut through the noise, a blend of vulnerability and strength that drew listeners in. Songs like Different Drum showcased her ability to take a simple melody and transform it into something unforgettable. It was clear that Linda wasn't just another singer, she was a force of nature. As she navigated the chaotic world of the music industry, she began to form connections with other rising stars. She shared stages with the Eagles before they were legends, performed alongside Jackson Browne, and became close friends with J.D. Souther. Her influence wasn't just limited to her own albums, she helped shape the sounds of those around her. In fact, her recommendation for Glenn Frey and Don Henley to form a band led to the creation of the Eagles, one of the most iconic rock bands of all time. But it wasn't just about friendships and collaborations. Linda's journey through the music industry was also filled with challenges and conflicts. As she rose to fame, she became known for her outspoken nature. Unlike many artists who played it safe to maintain their public image, Linda spoke her mind, even if it wasn't always popular. She criticized the commercialization of music and wasn't afraid to call out artists she felt were inauthentic. Her honesty was refreshing to some and controversial to others. Through the years, Linda experimented with different genres, proving time and again that she was more than just a rock or country singer. She embraced opera, traditional Mexican music, and jazz standards, breaking away from the expectations placed on her. This willingness to take risks set her apart from many of her contemporaries, who often stuck to one style for fear of losing their audience. But Linda never worried about that. For her, music was an art form, and she refused to be boxed in by anyone's idea of what she should be. This boldness sometimes brought her into conflict with other musicians. Linda wasn't afraid to share her opinions on who she thought was real and who she thought was just putting on a show. Her sharp eye for authenticity made her both respected and at times feared in the industry. If Linda didn't like someone's music, she didn't hide it. Her belief was that music should come from the heart, and if it didn't, it wasn't worth her time. Despite these strong opinions, her list of friends in the industry was long and filled with legendary names. She was deeply connected to the California rock scene, which included artists like Neil Young, David Crosby, and Stephen Stills. Her collaborations with Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris led to some of the most beautiful harmonies ever recorded, proving that Linda wasn't just a solo artist, she was a team player who knew how to bring out the best in others. Fans who watched her perform could always see the passion she had for music. There was never a moment where she didn't give everything she had on stage. Her concerts were more than just performances. They were experiences. People who saw her live often described it as something spiritual, a connection that went beyond just listening to songs. It was this energy that made her one of the best-selling artists of her time. But behind all the success, Linda held on to her principles. She believed that music was sacred and that true artists were the ones who respected it. This belief would later lead her to reveal her list of the 5 musicians she could not stand, a list rooted in her deep love for genuine artistry. For Linda, music was never just about fame or money, it was about truth, and she could always tell when someone was faking it. The road to success wasn't always easy for Linda. She faced criticism, industry politics, and the pressures of fame. Yet through it all, she remained true to herself and her music. Her legacy is not just in her songs, but in the way she lived her life as an artist. She didn't compromise, didn't back down, and always spoke her truth. In a world where many artists are afraid to share their real thoughts, Linda was fearless. Her journey through music's golden era is a testament to what happens when talent, passion, and honesty come together. She didn't just watch history unfold, she was a part of it. Her voice is still remembered today, not just for its beauty but for its power to move people. And even as she grew older and faced personal challenges, her influence never faded. Linda Ronstadt is more than just a singer. She is a symbol of authenticity in an industry that sometimes forgets what real artistry looks like. Her path through music's most influential years is not just her story, it's the story of an era where music truly mattered, where voices like hers could change the world. And as she continued her journey, she made it clear that she wasn't afraid to call out the artists she believed didn't deserve the spotlight. For Linda, music is pure, and she always knew who respected it and who didn't. Linda Ronstadt's life in the music industry has always been defined by one thing: her unapologetic honesty. From the moment she first stepped onto the stage, it was clear that she wasn't interested in playing the game of fame. She wasn't concerned with fitting into a mold or following trends. Instead, she was determined to make music that was true to herself and her values. While many musicians today are careful about their public image, choosing their words and actions based on what will gain the most followers or likes, Linda never hesitated to speak her mind. Her directness was part of what made her stand out. In a world where many celebrities are guarded and cautious about their opinions, Linda wasn't afraid to express herself. Whether it was about the changing landscape of the music industry or her personal views on different artists, she didn't shy away from speaking her truth. Her honesty about what she believed in and what she disliked made her both loved and controversial. Some admired her for being real, while others were taken aback by her bluntness. Linda Ronstadt's strong opinions about other musicians were rooted in her love for music. She didn't criticize people just for the sake of it. Instead, her critiques were always tied to what she felt was missing in their music. For Linda, music was about authenticity, emotion, and storytelling. It wasn't about producing a catchy tune to get radio play or making a popular song to fill concert halls. To her, music had to come from the heart. In interviews, Linda often spoke about the importance of feeling deeply connected to the music you make. She couldn't understand how some artists could churn out hits without pouring their souls into their work. She saw this as a betrayal of the art itself. For Linda, music wasn't something you could just manufacture. It had to be real. And when she saw musicians who were more concerned with fame than with the craft, she was quick to point it out. This wasn't just about personal taste, it was about respecting the tradition of music making. Linda knew how much effort it took to create something meaningful. She'd been through years of rehearsals, performances, and recording sessions. She knew the work that went into making a song that could stand the test of time. So when she saw artists who didn't seem to care about this level of dedication, it bothered her. But her opinions weren't just based on her own experience. Linda's deep connection to the music world meant that she had a clear understanding of what it took to truly stand out as an artist. She respected those who worked hard to master their craft, those who took risks and didn't just go along with the flow. It was this sense of dedication to the art of music that defined her own career. From the very beginning, she was someone who was willing to push boundaries, whether it was blending rock and country or taking on opera and traditional Mexican music. Her willingness to speak out against what she saw as a decline in musical integrity came from a place of deep care for the future of the industry. She worried that the pressure to be famous and sell records would overshadow the true purpose of making music. Linda knew how lucky she was to have had the chance to make a career out of her passion. She wanted the next generation of musicians to have the same opportunities to be able to make music that mattered, not just music that sold. But it's not just the big names in the industry that Linda had an opinion about. Over the years, she's made it clear that she doesn't believe in mindless celebrity worship. She's not interested in anyone simply because they're popular. To her, the worth of an artist wasn't based on their social media following or their chart success. It was based on the substance of their work. When she looked at an artist, what mattered most to her was the quality of their music and whether or not it connected with people on a real emotional level. This approach to music and celebrity is what sets Linda apart from many other stars. In a world where fame is often the ultimate goal, she was one of the few who didn't care about that at all. She didn't play the fame game and she didn't expect anyone else to either. For her, the music was always the most important thing. She understood that fame could come and go, but the impact of a great song could last forever. Linda quotes Sepp opinions about the music world weren't just limited to those she didn't like. She also shared her thoughts about the artists she admired. There were musicians she respected whose work she found meaningful and powerful. But even in these cases, Linda wasn't afraid to voice her thoughts on what they could do better or how they could push themselves even further. She wasn't interested in fawning over other artists. Instead, she viewed her peers as collaborators and equals, people who could help elevate the art form. She wanted to see everyone rise to the occasion and make music that was truly worth listening to. Over time, Linda became a symbol of artistic integrity. She was someone who made it clear that you didn't have to compromise your values to succeed in the music industry. She proved that you could have a long, successful career while staying true to yourself. In a world full of shortcuts, trends, and fads, Linda was a reminder that true artistry would always stand the test of time. Her opinions about other musicians were always delivered with respect, but they were never sugar-coated. She wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo or speak out against what she saw as inauthenticity. She never played it safe, and that's why she was both admired and misunderstood. While many in the music industry preferred to keep quiet and avoid controversy, Linda was never afraid to speak her mind, even if it meant upsetting a few people along the way. At the end of the day, Linda's unfiltered honesty about the music industry and the artists within it is one of the reasons she remains such a beloved and respected figure. She showed that you didn't need to conform to succeed. She proved that it was possible to be a star without losing your soul. And her opinions, though sometimes controversial, were always driven by a desire to see the art form evolve and improve. She wasn't just criticizing for the sake of it, she was challenging the music world to be better. As fans, it's easy to forget that musicians like Linda aren't just figures on a stage or faces on a screen. They are people with strong opinions, experiences, and thoughts about the world around them. Linda's willingness to share these thoughts made her not just a musician but a true voice for the music industry. And even though her opinions weren't always easy to hear, they were always important. Linda Ronstadt's career has always been about more than just her extraordinary voice. From the very beginning, she knew what she wanted from music. It had to be real, it had to be authentic, and it had to come from the heart. As she made her way through the music industry, it became clear that she wasn't just interested in making hits or becoming famous. She wanted to create something lasting, something meaningful, and she wasn't going to let the pressure of the industry or the desire for fame sway her from that goal. Her music was a reflection of her personality. Bold, honest, and never afraid to break boundaries. But what makes Linda's story even more fascinating is the way she navigated the ups and downs of the music industry. While she enjoyed massive success and became a household name, she never let that success define her. In fact, she was often more concerned about the direction the industry was going than about her own fame. She witnessed firsthand how quickly trends could come and go and how easily an artist could become a victim of their own success. But she remained focused on what mattered to her. Her music, her message, and staying true to herself. As Linda's career evolved, so did her tastes and opinions. She started off in the folk and country scene, but soon her versatility became apparent. She could sing anything from pop rock to jazz to opera, and she did it all with the same level of passion and dedication. But with success came challenges, and Linda didn't always agree with the direction that music was heading. She was particularly vocal about the commercialization of the music industry. She often spoke about how record companies were more interested in making money than in supporting real talent. This frustration with the industry led her to be more selective in her collaborations and to speak out about what she felt was wrong with the music business. Her perspective was shaped by years of hard work and dedication to her craft. She had seen the rise and fall of countless artists and bands who were more concerned with staying relevant than with creating music that was true to themselves. For Linda, this was a problem. She believed that artists had a responsibility to their art and to their fans. Music, in her eyes, was never just about the next big hit or the most popular album. It was about making a connection, telling a story, and sharing something meaningful. This belief made her particularly critical of certain artists, especially those who she felt were taking shortcuts. In interviews, Linda would often discuss how some musicians relied on the latest trends, focusing on style over substance. She didn't hold back when it came to expressing her disappointment with artists who she felt weren't putting in the work. She understood that the music industry could be cutthroat and that it was tempting for some to chase trends or follow what was popular at the time. But for Linda, that was never the point of making music. She was more interested in depth and authenticity than in simply getting radio play. Linda wasn't afraid to call out those she thought were faking it. Her honesty was refreshing, though sometimes it caused a stir. Her fans appreciated her directness because it was clear that she wasn't just speaking to make headlines, she was speaking because she believed in something. She believed that music had to be real, and if an artist wasn't giving their all to their craft, she wasn't afraid to say so. In her mind, music was not just an industry, it was an art form. And like any art form, it had to be respected. Linda always wanted to elevate the conversation about music. She was tired of seeing artists get famous for the wrong reasons. She was frustrated with how much of the music industry was about selling a persona rather than selling real heartfelt music. She knew the difference between a true artist and someone who was just riding a wave of popularity, and she wasn't afraid to express her thoughts on the matter. This led her to form opinions about certain musicians that others might have been too cautious to express. Linda's list of 5 musicians she didn't care for was not meant to be a personal attack, but rather a reflection of her own principles. These weren't just random dislikes, they were based on her beliefs about the music industry. Linda took her music seriously, and she wanted the industry to take it seriously too. If an artist wasn't living up to that standard, she wasn't afraid to say so. Linda's perspective on the music world didn't just stem from her own experiences, it was a product of the time she spent watching the industry change around her. When she first started her career, there was a different kind of respect for musicians. It wasn't about getting a song to trend on social media or making sure your latest album was viral. It was about creating something real that would stand the test of time. But as the industry evolved, Linda noticed that the focus seemed to shift away from artistry and more toward mass appeal. This shift is something that frustrated her throughout her career. She was also vocal about how this shift impacted up-and-coming artists. In the past, artists had to work hard to earn their place in the industry. They played countless gigs, wrote their own songs, and built a fan base over time. But with the rise of digital media and reality TV, it seemed that anyone with the right look or the right connections could make it big. For Linda, this was troubling. She worried that it would lead to a generation of musicians who were more interested in fame than in their craft. Her frustrations with the industry and her own personal experiences made Linda even more protective of her own art. She was fiercely independent and always tried to do things on her own terms. As she made decisions about her career, she stayed true to her belief that the music should always come first. She didn't make choices based on what was trending or what would get her the most attention. She made choices based on what she believed would be the best for her music. Even when she made choices that seemed unconventional, such as exploring genres outside of her comfort zone, Linda never hesitated. She took risks, knowing that not every move would pay off in the way the industry expected. But it didn't matter to her. She wasn't interested in doing things the easy way. She was more concerned with creating something that would resonate with her fans and that would allow her to continue growing as an artist. But Linda's views on other musicians were just one part of her overall philosophy about the music industry. She believed that music should be a platform for truth, and artists should use their voices to express what really mattered. Whether it was social issues, personal experiences, or their artistic vision, she felt that artists had an obligation to stand for something greater than themselves. This sense of responsibility to her art and her fans kept her grounded throughout her career. In the end, Linda's honesty about the music industry, its flaws and its strengths, was one of the things that made her such a respected figure. She wasn't just a great singer, she was a champion for real music, for authenticity, and for the kind of artistry that would stand the test of time. And while her views might not have always been popular, they were always authentic. She knew that music was about more than just the spotlight, it was about making something that mattered. Linda Ronstadt's life has been a journey filled with highs and lows, triumphs and struggles, but at the core of everything, she has remained one thing above all: an artist who stays true to her own voice. While many musicians of her time may have been concerned with fame and the expectations of the industry, Linda was always more concerned with making music that reflected her soul. From the beginning of her career, she was determined not to let anyone dictate what she should sing or how she should perform. She was going to do things her way, and she didn't care if it made people uncomfortable or challenged the norms of the industry. Her authenticity was one of the things that set her apart. Linda had a unique voice, but it wasn't just her vocal range that made her stand out, it was the emotion she poured into every note she sang. There was always a sense of honesty in her music, something that was real and raw. Whether she was singing a country ballad, a rock anthem, or a classical piece, her voice had a power that made listeners feel something. And it wasn't just the music that was special, it was the message behind it. Linda knew that the best music had meaning. It wasn't just about catchy tunes, it was about telling a story, evoking emotion and connecting with people on a deep level. Linda quote. Refusal to conform to the expectations of the industry meant that she often found herself at odds with the mainstream. While other artists were chasing after trends and radio hits, she was focused on exploring new sounds and pushing musical boundaries. She embraced every genre she could find, from country to pop to opera and even traditional Mexican music. For Linda, music wasn't about following the crowd, it was about creating something that was uniquely her own. But this approach didn't always make things easy for her. Throughout her career, Linda had to deal with the pressures of being a woman in a male-dominated industry. She faced criticism and skepticism from people who thought she should stick to one genre or one style of music. But Linda didn't listen to the critics. She kept forging ahead, always staying true to her vision. She refused to be pigeonholed, and she was determined to show that a woman could be just as successful and respected in any genre as her male counterparts. Along the way, Linda formed close relationships with many of the biggest stars of her time. She worked with artists like Neil Young, Jackson Browne and Dolly Parton, all of whom admired her talent and respected her independence. But Linda's music was always her own. Even when collaborating with others, she brought something special to the table, something that couldn't be replicated. Her voice and her artistry were unmatched, and anyone who worked with her knew it. Despite the success and recognition she received, Linda was never one to let her fame go to her head. She remained humble and down to earth, always focused on the music. For her, the real reward came from knowing she was creating something that would resonate with her fans. She wasn't interested in awards or accolades for the sake of it. What mattered to her was the music, and whether it had an impact on the people who heard it. Linda's relationship with fame was complicated. While she enjoyed the success that came with her career, she was also wary of the pressures that fame brought. She didn't want to be seen as just another celebrity, she wanted to be seen as an artist. And sometimes that meant stepping away from the spotlight to focus on her own well-being. As much as Linda loved performing and making music, she also understood the importance of taking care of herself. There were times when she had to take a step back and find balance in her life, something that many celebrities often struggle to do. Through all the challenges, Linda's career continued to thrive. Her work was celebrated not just for its commercial success, but for its artistic integrity. People appreciated that she didn't compromise her values. She refused to make music just for the sake of making money or gaining fame. She was in it for the art, and it showed in every song she recorded. Her fans knew they could always count on her to deliver something meaningful, something that spoke to them on a personal level. In many ways, Linda's journey through the music industry was a rebellion against the system. She didn't play by the rules, and that's what made her such an icon. She carved out a space for herself in an industry that often tried to dictate what artists could or couldn't do. By refusing to conform, Linda opened doors for future generations of musicians who didn't want to be boxed in by expectations. Yet, even as Linda became one of the most respected musicians of her time, she remained grounded. She never forgot where she came from, and she never took her success for granted. She always stayed connected to her roots, remembering the early days when she was just another young woman trying to make her mark on the world. Through all the fame, all the accolades, she stayed focused on what mattered most to her, the music. Linda's story is one of perseverance, independence, and authenticity. It's about an artist who refused to let the industry dictate her path, and who stayed true to her voice, no matter the cost. She wasn't just a musician, she was a trailblazer. Someone who set the stage for others to follow in her footsteps. Her legacy is not just in the songs she recorded, but in the way she lived her life as an artist. She showed the world that you didn't have to conform to succeed, you just had to be yourself. Linda Ronstadt is more than just a name in music history, she is a symbol of what it means to stay true to your craft and your vision. She is a reminder that authenticity in art is not only possible but necessary. As the world continues to evolve, Linda's legacy will remain as a beacon for those who believe in the power of music to change lives, to move people, and to make a lasting impact. Linda Ronstadt's impact on the music industry is undeniable. From the early days of her career, she showed the world that she wasn't just another singer, she was a force to be reckoned with. But beyond the fame and recognition, there was something more to Linda that made her so unique. It wasn't just her incredible voice or her ability to move between genres, it was her approach to the music business itself. While many artists were concerned with staying on top and maintaining a public image, Linda focused on creating music that mattered. She knew that the true measure of success wasn't in the number of records sold or the size of the crowd at a concert, it was in whether or not she was able to connect with her audience through her art. This mindset is what set Linda apart from many of her peers. In an industry that often emphasized the importance of commercial success, Linda had a different set of priorities. She wasn't interested in chasing trends or doing what was popular at the time. Instead, she focused on making music that felt true to who she was. Her voice was one of the most powerful instruments in music, but it wasn't just the technical aspects of her singing that made her stand out. It was the emotion she conveyed through every note, every phrase. Whether she was singing a heartbreaking ballad or an upbeat rock anthem, Linda brought a depth of feeling that few others could match. But Linda wasn't just about singing, she was about breaking boundaries. She understood early on that music wasn't meant to be confined to one genre or one style. She didn't let herself be boxed in by what was popular or what was expected of her. Instead, she embraced every genre she could, whether it was country, rock, jazz, or even opera. By blending different musical styles, Linda not only expanded her own artistic range, but also challenged the expectations of what a mainstream artist could achieve. She showed the world that it was possible to create something truly unique without sacrificing integrity or authenticity. Despite the success she achieved, Linda's journey in the music industry wasn't without its challenges. Like many artists, she faced pressure from record labels, producers, and even the public to conform to certain standards. But Linda never let these pressures dictate the direction of her career. She understood that true artistry came from following her own instincts, not from trying to please others. This independence is what made her so compelling to fans. They knew they could rely on Linda to create music that was honest and raw, music that wasn't trying to sell a product, but to communicate something real. One of the most fascinating aspects of Linda's career is her ability to evolve. While many artists find themselves pigeonholed into one genre or style, Linda never allowed herself to be limited. She was always looking for new challenges, new ways to grow as an artist. Over the years, she experimented with everything from country rock to traditional Mexican music to opera, and she didn't just dabble in these genres, she fully immersed herself in them, learning and growing with each new project. Her willingness to take risks in her music was one of the reasons she was so respected by her peers. She wasn't afraid to push boundaries, even if it meant stepping out of her comfort zone. But Linda's career wasn't just about the music, it was also about the impact she had on the people around her. She was someone who inspired others to be true to themselves, to follow their own paths, and to stand up for what they believed in. Whether it was her collaborations with other artists or her support for causes she cared about, Linda was always looking for ways to use her platform to make a difference. She wasn't just a musician, she was an advocate for change, someone who believed in the power of art to bring about a better world. Linda Ronstadt's impact went far beyond the music she made. She became a role model for countless young women who saw in her a figure who was unafraid to be herself. In an industry where women often had to fight for respect and recognition, Linda was a shining example of strength and independence. She never let anyone tell her what she could or couldn't do. She paved the way for future generations of women in music, showing them that it was possible to succeed without compromising your values. But Linda's life wasn't just about her professional success, it was also about her personal journey. She was never one to shy away from discussing her struggles and challenges. Over the years, Linda faced health issues that ultimately forced her to step away from music, but even in the face of adversity, Linda remained resilient. She continued to support other artists and to speak out on issues that were important to her. Even when she could no longer perform, her influence on the industry remained strong. Her legacy was built not just on the music she made, but on the way she lived her life. Despite all her success and influence, Linda was never interested in fame for fame's sake. She wasn't someone who craved attention or lived for the spotlight. What mattered to her was the music, and whether or not she was able to make a genuine connection with her audience. She didn't need the approval of critics or the adoration of fans to feel validated. She found her fulfillment in the music itself, and in the knowledge that she had created something meaningful. Linda's honesty about the music industry, her views on what it means to be an artist, and her willingness to speak out about the things she cared about, made her one of the most respected figures in the music world. She wasn't just an entertainer, she was a thought leader, someone who challenged the status quo and pushed the industry to do better. Her music wasn't just for the moment, it was for the ages. She created songs that would resonate for years to come, songs that would be remembered long after the fleeting trends of the music world had passed. As Linda's career evolved, so did the way she was seen by the world. What started as a simple desire to make music soon turned into a journey of self-discovery, of pushing limits, and of changing the way people thought about music. Through it all, Linda stayed true to herself. She showed the world that you didn't have to conform to succeed, that you didn't have to sacrifice your artistic integrity for commercial success. And while she may have stepped away from the stage, her influence continues to live on through the artists she inspired and the music she created. Linda Ronstadt's story is a reminder that true success is not measured by fame, but by the impact you have on the world and the way you stay true to your values. She may have been one of the most celebrated musicians of her time, but her legacy is about much more than just the music she made. It's about the way she lived her life, the way she challenged the norms, and the way she inspired others to do the same. Her story is one of courage, authenticity, and the power of art to change the world.